This is TWiT.
Ars Technica is reporting that more than 70% of Americans say, we're not going to use contact tracing apps. That's actually a decline. You were on, Georgia Dow, some episodes ago when we were talking about the Google Apple API, and said, no way, I'm putting that on my phone.
We were both together. We both said
both of you said that. Well, you're now joined by 70% of Americans. This is a survey by Opinion Matters on behalf of a security company, Avira. When asked if they plan to download a contact tracing app, an overwhelming majority, 71%, said no. Part of the problem with the Apple, as it turns out with the Apple Google API, is it's too privacy forward. That none of the information health experts want, things like your name and actual location, are available to them. So only 4 states say they're going to use the API. More countries are using it. Switzerland's trying it out. Germany's finally said they're going to do it. Latvia's doing it. Even the UK has said we're going to use the API. But my guess is that worldwide the reaction is pretty much the same. We know in Singapore, where they put out an app early on, only 25% of residents installed it. Now Singapore's considering handing out a Bluetooth token, kind of like an Apple tag that you'd carry in your pocket that would record your location at all times.
Which people will be just sticking on their dog. Right?
Don't you want to help?
Give it to my cat.
You want to be locked up forever?
I don't think that doesn't help. That's just one small piece of it. If you're not going to be testing everyone, then what does it matter, right? If you're only going to test you when you're really sick, you've had 14 days to infect, right? Like how many people, right? 1,000 perhaps. So
it basically states that 7 out of 10 people don't trust authority in the government that they live in. 7 out of 10 people in the world would rather risk dying and having someone next to them dying than trust the power structure or information that they already have on you anyway. That's really what it comes down to.
As few as 50% of Americans in other surveys say they would do the vaccine. So this could last a while.
Yeah, I think a part of it, a big part of it is just going to simply be once we have a binary yes/no, pass/fail sort of system in place that has numbers and science behind it, the ability to say, okay, well, if you do want to go to this restaurant tonight, you're going to have to show that you have a valid pass/fail card. If you want to attend this concert, you're going to have to have a pass/fail card scanned. That's going to cause riots. I'm sorry, that's a bad word. Cause enough kickback that the organizations proposing this will back down, or that's going to lead to widespread adoption. It depends on it depends on how much attention people are paying to the numbers week by week by week, and people are still dying, and we can still see areas in which the numbers are going up and not down, and it's very, very disappointing to me that I'm seeing people, even when I went grocery shopping the other day, that I'm wearing my mask, of course, not just because I'm outside, but because specifically, hey, you're inside this enclosed space. There's a sign saying you have to wear a mask. And the number of times where I pass someone by who's wearing their mask around their necks, and then they see me with the mask and they like sheepishly pull it up.
See that all the time.
Like, do you not understand that we are still in a crisis here? Something's going to have to give, and one possibility, I have to say, is that society, either through ignorance or through acceptance, decides that we are okay with losing X tens of thousands of people that would have lived over the past 2 or 3 over a period of 2 or 3 years, over all the damage that's being done to social situations, to school, to businesses. That's a possibility, but it would be a very, very sad one if I'm opted into this by virtue of the fact that I have to go shopping with people who are going out while they're sick and not wearing masks.
And Andy, that doesn't even work, though. There's not ever going to be a pass-fail card to come into the store, because my favorite thing is when I walk by someone, they're like, oh, I got tested for COVID. I don't have it. Yeah, you didn't have it last week when you got tested. You've been walking around now without a mask, and you just got it from your sister's brother's cousin at the barbecue, and boom, you got it, but you won't know for another 2 weeks. So that little token wouldn't even work because you're clear today, and you went out and did all that willy-nilly stuff, and now you got it tomorrow. So, I mean,
No, the way the token works.
Yeah,
to be fair, the way the token works, everybody carries it. It's all the time. As soon as you test positive, you give them your token. It has in it everywhere you've been and everyone you've come into contact with, much like the Apple Google API, that then the health authorities can use to do contact tracing. The difference is it has names, addresses, and phone numbers. In effect, it has the actual people so that they can call them and say, you were exposed, you need to quarantine as well. But nobody's going to do it, especially in the United States. If they're not doing it in Singapore, I can't imagine they're going to do it in the United States. So.
Yeah, South Korea did have a lot of good results with contact tracing, but a lot of that earlier on, like a couple of months ago, there were some reports on it. But that was largely because the government was doing this very, very actively. People didn't have a choice about it.
No, they have to, because people will say no. They say, no, I'm not going to tell you. No, you have to tell me.
Yeah, we have a situation where Lowe's theater chain is saying, "Oh, we're not going to force people to wear masks because we don't want to get in the middle of a big political debate."
It's not political.
We got some work to do.
Yeah. Okay.
If some people had as much passion about wearing masks or not wearing masks as they did about like racial injustice and keeping people safe, we'd be in a better place.
Honestly, I think it's pretty clear at this point, and I just see it walking around Petaluma. There's only one way through this, and that's just we're going to all get it. And good luck to you. Good luck. I hope you survive.
Have you heard people saying that? Oh, well, I had it a few months ago. I'm pretty sure that means I have antibodies and I can't get it.
I hear that all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number one, no, that doesn't mean that. And number two, it still means that you could infect other people. So okay, good for you.
That's the thing, is that you don't know if you can get it again. And they've tested that some people that tested positive and had antibodies no longer have the antibodies. So there's just so many things that are unknown, and I think that. The World Health Organization did a real disservice by first saying that masks did not help you, and they were doing it to protect the healthcare workers so that they could get enough masks for themselves.
They could have said homemade masks are okay. They really could have said that. They could have.
Exactly.
In fact, in some countries, they did it. In the Czech Republic, they did. And there was a vast effort to make homemade masks and hand them out to everybody, and it was very effective. So it's possible. But, it's a confluence of a variety of different things. And it doesn't. I mean, this doesn't look good. This is not a technology subject. It's hard not to think about it.
Well, it is. Well, it is a technology subject in a way that this is a mistake that collectively we keep making over and over again. To think that technology. Here is an academic idea in which we can use technology to solve this huge problem, and we're going to have faith in the technology as opposed to seeing how that's going to play out in the real world. I just bought on eBay one of those one laptop per child laptops because it's still a cool piece of design.
Oh yeah, I have one. Yeah.
Nick Laporte was saying, oh well, here's how we solve education worldwide. We make really cheap $100 laptops, and governments will buy like 1 million of them and give a child their own laptop. And that was without actually checking with each of these individual regions saying, well, what is your biggest problem? And if they're telling them, well, our biggest problem is that we don't have enough trained teachers. It doesn't matter how many laptops you give out. If you don't have a teacher, you're going to need that.
Good point.
And time and time again. Academically, I think that's a great idea. Let's find a way so that when someone gets sick, we can find out who they're in contact with so we can contain that little nodule of spread. But nonetheless, trying to convince people that this is not going to weaken your personal privacy is something that you have a responsibility to do. That means that this person is simply well informed on the risks of carrying around a phone with them wherever they go, and it might be an unsolvable problem.
Yeah, actually, Google Maps does a better job of tracking you, honestly, than any of these apps. Yeah, and most of us have location tracking turned on. So
they did.
Like if they could. Sorry.
A couple months ago, Google released this actually a very, very powerful tool, which is a data tool for local governments to say, here is the statistics for the people in your community, how much time they're spending in public transportation areas, how much time they're spending in grocery stores, how much time they're spending in recreational areas, which allows the community organizers to find out, okay, well, we've told people please don't go to the beaches because that's where we're going to, and people are not following those things, so we need to step up enforcement there. What they're not saying is, please don't ask us how we know that 8% more people are going to this supermarket now than before coronavirus.
Oh, by the way, we do know that. What were you going to say, Georgia? Go ahead.
My thing is just that I wish that we used our tech to be able to increase the amount of people that were tested, because if we could do mass testing and we knew everyone that at the moment has it, then we could deal with really isolating instead of dealing with something that's 2 weeks too late.
True.
And so we're always playing catch up. And it is costly, but I think that it's something that would in the end save us. And I think that people are more important than the government making as much profit as they can.
Well, there's also some blame to the scientific community, because there's been such a rush to publish that there's been a lot of conflicting information flowing out of the epidemiological and scientific and health communities. And that's confusing to us because we hear a variety of things. There was I thought, a wonderful paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, published. It looked like it was peer-reviewed. It said it was peer-reviewed, published by a Nobel laureate chemist, saying that not only is it pretty clear at this point that aerosolized COVID-19 is the predominant way of infection, and a particularly virulent form because it goes right into your lungs, but that masks, above all other mitigations, work. Not that you shouldn't social distance and wash your hands, but everybody should wear a mask, and if everybody did, it would work. And I thought this was so good. I blogged about it. I thought this is a great paper. Today in the New York Times, it turns out a bunch of scientists are asking the NAS to retract the article because, yes, it's peer-reviewed, but it was peer-reviewed in a fashion that isn't very good. The peer reviewers were selected by the study's authors, and a number of scientists now saying the assertions in this article are over the top and not supported by science. And when that happens, it ends. And I think I'm fairly literate in consuming scientific literature. That really undermines the whole damn thing. It's like, okay, if you're going to publish that in NAS and you're very respected and you say it's peer reviewed and the guy who wrote it's a Nobel laureate and now it's not true, oy. So, and the other problem is now it goes the other direction. People are going to say, see, that mask thing, it's not true, which is not true either. So this is part of the problem we're in.
Science,
well, I
right?
agree.
It is, but it has to be replicated, and
it
we
takes
test
a time.
it out. We look
takes
at it.
time.
We actually,
yes.
But we ask that question of, listen, this doesn't deal with the scientific rigor. Someone else comes out and says, pull this. It doesn't stand up to scientific rigor.
Yes, we're watching the process play out.
Responsibility,
right?
Versus just this, diatribe that anyone with, a computer can send out a false peer review that looks really good, and
there's also been a problem with a lot of papers published without peer review, preprints they call them, and so I thought I was being smart. I was saying, well, this is not a preprint. This is peer reviewed from a prestigious journal, and even then, apparently, I was fooled. So I don't know. I think that's part of the problem too. Is scientific method does not work in the way that helps us be certain about what we need to do. That's where leadership makes a difference. That's where, unfortunately, a gutted CDC is no help at all, because we don't have the kind of leadership that can assess all this material and then give us clear instructions one way or the other. It's all just a mess.